Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 485. Meeple Nation, July 2023 news.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Go to GameToppersLLC.com, check out what they have. They have some amazing high-quality products to enhance every game night that you have. Enhance your game room, enhance every game that you bring to the table. They have beautiful mats for your game toppers. They have toppers of all sizes and shapes that you can, well, not necessarily shapes, just sizes. But you can put those on any table that you have available to you. And if you don't have a table available to you, they have leg kits as well that you can add to that topper. We love our Game Topper products. We use them all the time. They are top notch. Check them out, GameToppersLLC.com.
Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are the hosts. I am Douglas Stewart, the only member of Meeple Nation that does not sound like a late night DJ.
That means you must be a morning DJ. Is that because you're a happy peppy people?
I'm not a morning person, so no, I don't think that's the case. I'm just happy to not sound like a DJ, honestly.
Well, I'll
take it.
I have a face for radio, so that's
well.
Yeah, maybe that's why we haven't gotten video yet.
It is. I'm just kidding, Nathan. Come on.
Oh, and I'm Nathan Howard.
Well, welcome to the show, Nathan.
Thanks. I'm a little late.
And I am Andy Holiday.
Hey, if you've got a few seconds to spare, head on over to meeplenation.com. We've got a plethora of amazing blogs to read, photos you can look at, links to past episodes. You can learn a little bit more about us, and you can click on our link to Patreon to become a patron of the podcast. We love our patrons and appreciate any support we can get. We would also absolutely love to hear from you, so if you've got something to send our way, questions, feedback, or maybe just some good juicy gossip, send it our way at meeplenation@gmail.com.
Or just let us know if we sound like late night DJs. Also good information. So thanks for that, Salvatore. And speaking of Salvatore Cautela is one of our latest patrons. So we would like to welcome Salvatore. Also along with Salvatore, we have Lance Morgan. We welcome both of you. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast. And we are glad to have you here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So this week, it is July news, so we're talking about all of our highlights of before July, but we got some news this time too, and we're going to try to stick to it.
Yes, we are, and maybe since there are only 3 of us tonight, that make it a little easier, because we do love our gaming highlights. And to kind of kick our highlights off, I am super excited for a game that I received, one of my Kickstarters I received, and we have had a chance to play this multiple times since we received it, and that is the Castles of Burgundy, the deluxe edition. And oh my goodness, this game has been one of my favorite games for years and years, but it was never ever a very beautiful game, I guess. The table presence was kind of blah. The box definitely was blah. It's very similar to if you've ever seen the Princes of Florence old school board game too, a very similar look to it. And some people like that old artwork and that old styling on the boxes. Well, they've updated that, and they've updated all the terrain and all the tiles. So they're either going to be ceramic tiles, or the pieces you actually place into your estate are 3D pieces. So 3D buildings, 3D ships, everything is 3D, and oh my goodness, the table presence is amazing with this deluxe edition of the Castles of Burgundy.
It has definitely gone from blah to
wow.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, so they teamed up with Awaken Realms to do the production on this. And I mean, Awaken Realms is, everything they touch has an absolutely amazing production value. And this is no exception. It's an absolutely beautiful game, and what a pleasure to get to the table. I will say, having all of the deluxe components, you still kind of draw tiles out of a bag, and then you've got to kind of go hunt for the little mini to put it out on the board. There's a little bit more upkeep for sure with this deluxe edition. Yeah, cleanup as well, but totally worth it, right? That extra time is a absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, it does enhance the table presence tenfold Very nice to play. Very enjoyed. I very enjoyed that.
I very enjoyed it too.
Yeah. But that was my second play of Castles of Burgundy. I'd played it once before and was not a highlight for me very much. It was just a new game that I'd played. But this one I very much enjoyed my experience with it and the play of it, and the presence on the table was phenomenal.
You know, and I love the fact that with this deluxe version, there's a lot of additional content. So, like your estate that gets placed down that has your map essentially that you're filling in, there is a ton. There are a ton of map tiles that you can use to really change your experience on what you're trying to do in the strategy you want to go for throughout the game. And just all the expansions, mini expansions, larger expansions, there's just a ton of content. So I'm super excited to dive into this box and see what it has to offer, because we haven't gotten to everything yet. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to throwing in those expansions for certain.
So speaking of Kickstarters, I also got a new Kickstarter recently. And since we're right here on the tail end of July, right around the 4th of July, which is a U.S. holiday here, I got this package, small box. I opened it up, and the packaging on this box, or the packaging on the game, I was like, who sent me fireworks? First of all, how can you send fireworks through the mail? I thought that was illegal. But I got this box of fireworks. But no, it was my new game called Chicken, and it's a dice rolling game. And it very much looks like a fountain or something that would go boom.
Yeah. So Nathan is holding this in his hand right now, and it absolutely does look like a little fountain firework that you might light and throw out on the sidewalk for the kids to watch.
In fact, Nathan and his wife and myself and my wife, we went to dinner last week, and Nathan had brought chicken to potentially play while we were waiting for food to come. And we all thought it was a firework that he set on the table. And
even
the waitress,
the server did, yeah.
The waitress is like, why do you have a firework on the table?
I'm not sure what these guys are planning to do during this meal, but there's going to be fireworks tonight.
So we have established that it looks like a firework. How is the actual game, though? Did you get to play it?
Yeah, I've played it 4 or 5 times now. It's a very simple dice rolling game. You start off with 4 white dice, and you're going to roll those dice, and on the sides you're going to either have foxes, chickens, or eggs. And you have the option to re-roll once, and any chickens and foxes, you're going to set those aside. Well, first you got to check to confirm that you don't have 3 foxes. If you roll 3 foxes, those foxes raid the chicken coop and your turn ends and you score nothing. But if you don't roll 3 foxes, you're going to count up the number of eggs that you have, and then you're going to go to the coop, and in the coop there are 4 yellow dice and 4 orangish red colored dice. And you're going to take however many eggs you have, you're going to take that many yellow dice and add them to your pool. So your chickens and your foxes are set off to the side, but anything that has an egg on it, you're going to roll that with whatever additional dice that you were added to your pool, and you're going to roll those, and then you're going to, again, confirm, not 3 foxes, you're good. Then you're going to count up the number of chickens that you have, and then you're going to score that many points. And then you're going to take all the dice that you rolled at that last time and hand them to the player on the left. So that player is going to get the benefit of rolling first those yellow dice that you handed them. But there's a higher chance of rolling a fox. And then eventually, you could ultimately hand the player 12 dice, because if you've rolled enough eggs that you've added all the yellow dice and all the orange dice and you're passing it to the next player, they got 12 dice. So the chance of them rolling a fox, pretty darn high. So they can chicken out. That's the name of the game. You can say, okay, I'm not going to roll it. You'll return all the yellow dice and all the orange dice, and then just simply roll the 4 white die, and then the turn goes to there. And this simple, first player to reach 25 points is the winner.
So there is definitely a pressure luck element involved in this.
But you only get to do it once.
I
was going to say it sounds like a simpler version of zombie dice, maybe, or a less press your luck version of zombie dice.
Yeah, and the canister, my firework here looks, it's about the same size as the zombie dice can as well. But yeah, no, it's simpler, but it is fun. And then you have the little meeple shapes that it can go up to 8 people, I believe, or 6 people. And it's designed by Scott Alms, so a drastic change from Tiny Epic Games to Chicken. The meeples that are your player tokens, there's a poop token.
There is.
And that there's all sorts of farm animals that are there. And then there's an expansion that introduces the chicken in the egg, and then a dog. The dog will bark and scare away the foxes, but the dog wants to play all the time. So you have to roll the dog all the time.
Call it an egg expansion?
I did, but that's only because that's what it's called.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's an egg expansion.
Might as well lean into that theme.
Yeah.
The benefit to this game is, in my opinion, is it's fun. And the fact that it plays quickly. I think if it went much longer than it does, it would get boring really fast.
And frustrating for those people who D6 hate me.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah.
And it was very prevalent that D6 hate me in that game and they love Nathan.
Well, we played the second time. So Sierra ran away with it.
Amara. We didn't play a second time.
All right, never mind then. I won. Yes, I'm the winner.
You are the winner. But I think the fact that it plays quickly though makes it so that, at least for me, being a person who it's really based on luck, there's a little bit of strategy, a little bit, not a ton.
Oh, it's definitely a luck game.
Because of that, it's not one I enjoy a whole lot. But the fact that it's okay, you're done in 20 minutes. Yeah, let's just play a quick little pressure luck game and a great filler game. It's a great filler game.
Yeah, absolutely. And something like you mentioned, we took it to the restaurant as something that is very much for that filler time.
Yeah.
And then we also, the three of us and our spouses went to a comedy show afterwards. And while we were waiting for that, I was planning on reading the rules there to finish and playing that. But it was too loud, too dark.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to get that to the table sometime. That's cool. The game that I wanted to talk about first tonight, kind of going back to Awaken Realms, this is ISS Vanguard. And I've mentioned this a couple of times before on the podcast, but I'm just continuing to absolutely love this game. If the idea of heading out into space and just exploring the unknown, right? That exploration and discovery and uncovering a mystery and doing a lot of planetary exploration and ship management and trying to do a lot of research and crew management, that type of thing. If that sounds fun, then this is a game you absolutely need to check out and play. As I play this game, I'm a little torn because I think that it's one, Andy, I think that it's one that you would like. I think it's one that Dave would like. I don't know that you guys would love it, but it's one that as I'm playing through it, because Nathan, you talk all the time about how you love that discovery and exploration element to games. And it's one that I wish we were playing together because I actually think you would really love this game.
Yeah, this is one I really wanted to back, but I'm not backing any games.
Liar!
Right. Uh-huh. Yep.
But yeah, no, ISS Vanguard, it does excite me.
Yeah, and it has a really cool dice system. The system of dice that it uses, so each faction you basically play as four sections on the ship, I should say. So you've got science, engineering, and then recon and security. And each section has a pool of dice that they can use. So as you send their members down to do planetary exploration, they use that pool of dice to carry out their actions and to roll and to modify and do all these things. And so you're basically using that resource in what becomes a pretty tight little management game to uncover the mysteries on each planet, to discover, mineral leads and alien artifact leads. And then if you can get enough leads, you make these discoveries and all this stuff. When you get to the ship management phase, like the first time I went through it, I was like, okay, this is cool, but it's just kind of, moving some cards around and making some decisions. But as the game has progressed, I'm like 4 or 5 planets into the game now. And as it progresses, I love the ship management phase. It offers some incredible choices about I've got these situations on the ship. I've got like crew members fighting and stuff like that. Do I need to go take care of that? Do I need to focus on research? Do I need to, focus on getting more crew members, awakened from cryo sleep so that I've got more options? There's just all these really, really cool sort of decisions to make as you're out exploring deep space. And it's really wonderful. This game does something that's really cool. It has what's called the personnel files, which is technically an add-on, but you should always play with it. The stack of cards, there's 100 or so of them, 120, I think, that represent the different crew that could potentially wake up from cryosleep. So, I mean, it's incredible in terms of the variability that you could have, considering you won't experience more than maybe 20% of that crew in a single playthrough. But what the personnel files does is, as you unlock your crew and send them out to do different things, you can introduce new versions of them. And there's a whole book that comes with backstory. So it's a great way of not weighing the players down with too much backstory, but rather allowing them to just explore the backstory for the characters that they care the most about and want to get more invested in. And it's a brilliant little system. Anyway, ISS Vanguard, I've been absolutely loving this game. It's phenomenal.
So what you're saying is I need to get my own copy.
Yeah, or just come play mine. Maybe we just need to figure out how to do that. More game nights. It always comes down to more game nights.
Always comes down to more game nights. So while we're on the dice theme, another new game that I finally got to the table, I've had for a while, but that's Memoir 44. And I played it, figured it out, got it, and I loved it. And I was super excited, trying to get anybody to play. In fact, I had there's a BGA implementation of it. I'm still out, jury's still out on how I like that.
I don't like it, for the record.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way as well, which is disappointing because I really, really like this game.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Playing it in person, very much enjoy this game. But it's you have the Axis versus the Allies, and you're playing out these several scenarios, and you have tanks, you have artillery, you have infantry, and you're just trying to play through these historic scenarios. And I've played it with you, Andy. I've played it with you, Doug. And it's one I'd really like to get my wife to play, but I think the theme for her is just going to sink like a rock. But I really, really like Memoir 44. And there's a whole bunch of content that I have for it. And there's still more content out there, but this is one that I very much have enjoyed.
So maybe what we do is we have a game night where we play ISS Vanguard and then Memoir 44.
I'm in.
Okay,
I'm
done.
in. Yeah. This is my last Friday off, so.
Well, I enjoyed it too, but I don't know if that had to do with the fact that I won both of the
You kicked my butt.
games. I don't think it was completely that, because I really did have fun. I think the hang up for it, if there is one, is the fact that what really hurt you in that first scenario is the fact that the randomness of the cards, right? And you are so reliant on getting the right cards out, or right cards in your hand at the right time. And if those don't come out, it can totally just sink your game, which is what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wish there was kind of a mulligan rule where if you get to the point where all my forces are not in the arenas that I have cards for, it would be nice to be able to discard those cards to draw new cards.
Yeah, I mean, you could always do, dare I say, a house rule.
No. Shut your dirty mouth.
I'm just saying, it might fix that for you.
It might, but then it would be a house rule, and I would be blasphemous and have to exile myself.
Well, so to be fair, this game also does rely heavily on dice rolls as well. So
Yeah,
it's the cards,
2 random elements.
and it's the dice rolls. But I still love it. Like, it feels really good. It feels really thematic. I personally love that theme. And I think that this is done very well. I think it's done very respectfully. And I do like it how, a game consists of one, you play one is the Axis, one's Allies, and then you switch.
Yeah.
Right. So a game is one player playing both sides.
Yeah.
And,
So
and I
then
do
you
like that.
combine
And
your
it
total.
does. Yeah, it does add some. And it's kind of fun because you can kind of see how your opponent played, the first go around, and you can kind of learn from your own mistakes and hope they didn't learn too much from your mistakes while you're watching what they did. And you're like, okay, that didn't work. I'm not going to do that. Or, I'm going to try something different. Right. And I love that.
Well, not only that, you have like you said, Nathan, the historic scenario, right? So it seems to me, at least in the scenario we played, that the Allies definitely had the advantage. And honestly, I don't think I should have, as the Axis powers, I don't think I should have won that. And I think you should have ran away with it if it hadn't been for the just terrible luck, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that you switch, right, makes up for that, where you're the underdog in one game, but then you switch and now you're the one that's favored to win,
aggressor,
right? So I like that aspect of it as well.
Yeah. I really enjoy the game. And I do like how you switch sides so that you play it again and kind of turn the tables and play it from the other side and combine those scores to get an overall score. Yeah. And I lose it terribly.
I was talking to one of our good friends, Kyle, who absolutely loved this game, and we kind of got chatting about it a little bit, and he was really excited that you had gotten us all into it, because he's like, oh, I need more people to play this game with, and so he got really excited. So we need to, when we go to like SaltCon and some of those things, we might need to take Memoir 44 and play this a little bit more, because I really enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, and it's a pretty small box, so you just pack it with, well, no, it's a regular size box, but I mean, yeah, it doesn't take up a ton of space. So just if that's one of those games that you're going to play, and it doesn't take a ton of time, I think is really what the point I'm trying to get to. You're playing those 2 rounds, and you're probably about 45 minutes for each round. Well, I guess depending on the scenario, depending on how deep the scenario is. And at the most, it's really going to go till one player scores 6 medals, which is essentially either reaching a specific goal on the board or eliminating 6 units, 6 complete units of either 4 infantry, 3 tanks from the board. Yeah. And you do that and you get the medal.
Yeah, this game also has a way of combining multiple copies into sort of an epic mode where you can have, like 4 people play on teams. And the way that that's done and executed seems really interesting to me as well. So more Memoir 44, please, let's do it.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could do that 4 players. And it's if it's well implemented, because to me it seems like it'd be one of those like, here, hold my control. Here's a controller for you to your little brother, right, with no batteries in it. But if, I guess the difficult part with that with a multiplayer would be discussing strategy without the other team knowing exactly what you're doing.
Well, they have their own cards that they got to play, so there's not...
Right, and their own board.
And their own board, yeah, because you're going to combine 2 boards.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
And it can go up to 8 people, so teams of 4.
Wow.
And it does sound interesting, but yeah, I always, when I first see that, I'm like, yeah, this is just going to be another thing like Rebellion, where it's exactly it, where you're just giving somebody a controller and they can pretend they're playing along with you.
Yeah.
But no, they're going to be in charge of their section of the board. Before I knock it too much, I want to give it a try because I think it has potential.
Oh, it sounds interesting.
For sure.
So I'm going to jump back to a Kickstarter that I received this last month, and it is just a fun, quick tile placement game that is called Shake That City. AEG released this one. I was very pleased with how quickly they fulfilled this. It was, I want to say it kickstarted either at the beginning of this year or the end of last year. I mean, it was super quick fulfillment on it. But it's a blast. So you have a little shaker that has different colored cubes in it, and you push the little button and it reveal you, and then you lift the box up. It reminds me of the pyramid in Camel Up.
Yeah,
right.
Me too.
You drop the cubes and then you lift it up, and it's in a 3x3 grid for the cubes, and then everyone's sitting around the table on different sides of the table normally. Well, everybody's boards are oriented with bonus point tiles around their board and everything, and they all have to be oriented exactly the same way. And I don't mean like my perspective versus your perspective across the table. I mean, as if I slid my board directly across the table right in front of you and didn't change its direction at all. That's how you have to set your board up. And that completely changes what everybody's trying to do, because when you choose, so the way it works is the active player chooses a color of cubes, and they have to place the matching building of that color, but they have to place all of them. So if there are 3 blue cubes out there, they have to place 3 shops, and the shops have to be oriented in the exact way that is shown on that 3x3 grid. Now, they can move it around any way they want, upward, sideways, and everything, but they can't rotate it and they can't invert it.
Because your building on your board is it 6x6?
It is 6x6, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6x6.
So you have a little bit of leeway because you got that 3x3 grid, but you can't cover any tiles.
Nope.
And so, yeah, you start to paint yourself in a corner real quick.
Yeah, by the end of the game, you can literally have nothing that you can do because of the fact that you want to build your city, because that's what you're doing. You're building a city. You want to build it strategically enough to where you can open up and leave as many options for yourself at the end of the game. Now, everybody else, the active player is going to choose a color. Everybody else is going to pick a color that's left over. They don't get to pick the color the active player chooses, but they can pick any other color that's out there, and then they have to play everything on their board that matches the color that they chose. And you're going to go through 15 rounds of this, and then the game ends. It plays super quick, but it's unique, and the scoring is unique. Each building is going to score differently, and you have to meet certain criteria to score. And so there's a lot of strategy in this little tiny quick game, and I love it.
This was one that I was mad I didn't back, and almost as mad as I was over Tiny Turbo Cars. Because as soon as we played it, I was like, okay, I got to find a copy of this and pick it up. So I have one ordered because I'm actually really excited to play this one with my wife. I think she'll like it a lot. She's very much into the spatial orientation games, tile placing games like that anyway. But with as much fun as Shake That City is, it was one of those times where before we were even through playing it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to pick me up this game.
The weird thing is that Kickstarter came with bookmarks, which is odd. I've been trying to give them away.
Did you mail Lydia's yet?
I haven't yet, but I'm going to.
She'll appreciate that. She will. She also really liked this game, as did I. And I've also ordered a copy of it. I really like this. Very, very unique and interesting sort of spatial management type of game with a unique puzzle and a really cool component. That little box that you kind of shake up and press and the cubes kind of come out in a grid. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, good game.
Love it. Well, next I wanted to talk about a game that's familiar, if you know me at all, and that is Arkham Horror, the LCG. I do feel like I talk about this one a lot, but me and my friends, Matt and Monica, just finished the Scarlet Keys campaign. And I liked this campaign a lot, although it did have some pretty serious flaws. It has a lot of promise. It has a lot of potential. So the way that this campaign plays, you basically have a map of the world. And after playing some intro stuff, you can kind of explore and go out and do what you want. Now you have to track your time, so you can't do everything. But you're going to go out and you're going to kind of uncover stories. And the premise is you're basically going to different places and you're looking for key individuals. The problem is you can tell that from a design perspective, they had a hard time balancing this, because rather than being a linear campaign that assumes characters are getting stronger from, mission to mission, this one could have one group of players hitting, the mission up in, Anchorage, Alaska, really early on in the campaign. And it could have other players hitting that campaign super late hitting that mission late in their campaign. And so from a balance perspective, this was difficult. And there were some of the missions that felt like a little too easy, but for the most part, they all felt really hard. Like they were kind of all designed to be played with more leveled up investigators. And so that did lead to a little bit of frustration. There's also a mechanism that this campaign introduces. It's like the decoy mechanism. So when you're out hunting for these, key people, you take their card and some decoy cards, you shuffle them up, and then you kind of randomly distribute them around the map. And then you have to go out and try to find the actual person, uncovering the decoys and tossing them out as you go. But mechanically, it was a little fiddly and not my favorite part of the game, not my favorite kind of mechanical introduction to this game. Still had an absolutely wonderful time playing it. Probably my least favorite Arkham Horror campaign, and yet still was phenomenal. So, I mean, if that tells you anything about the quality of Arkham Horror, the LCG, I don't know what else would. We also decided, because we finished Scarlet Keys, we decided to jump into, it's actually a fan-made campaign called Dark Matter. And this campaign is actually set in space, and I'm absolutely in love with it. So the whole idea with this is your investigators are waking up from cryosleep on this seemingly abandoned spaceship called the Tatterdemalion, and you are uncovering the mystery of what's going on the ship, what horrors await, kind of what's going on. You're kind of uncovering your memories, what happened to you, why you have all these memories of being, in like the 1920s Arkham, Massachusetts, to suddenly being alive on a spaceship in like the 22nd century. And it just has a really intriguing storyline. It's very well done. The art is spot on. The writing is really good, and I'm absolutely loving it. So that's kind of the next one we're playing through, is this Dark Matter campaign. But I just continue to absolutely love Arkham Horror. What a fantastic game.
Yeah, every time you talk about Arkham Horror, it always makes me sad that I get rid of my stuff. It
makes me happy because I've had a chance to play it and love it. And the campaign we're doing, which is the shortest one, right? I can't wait to finish that and start another one. It's a great game.
Yep. Yeah, and we need to finish that up. We just need to get Logan pinned down so that we can get that wrapped up.
Yeah, true that.
So another one that we got to the table, this was a game that we received when we went up to Icon up in Idaho back in April. And this was a game called Finding John Carter. And I don't know if people are familiar with the story, but John Carter was a Civil War hero that found some portal that transported him to Mars, and he began to battle with the aliens in Mars. But apparently John Carter has found a new portal and is lost. So we're looking for John Carter again. This game has a lot going on. There's the board's kind of, I don't want to say busy, because it is manageable, but there is a lot going on the board, and it's a worker placement. So you're going to place your tokens and take the action on the different boards. And I thought the play was actually really pretty decent. There was a little bit of clunkiness to it, but the game, I think, was phenomenal on its own. And one that I've played 3 times now, teaching different people, trying to get, I think we missed Doug playing, and then we had played it again to introduce Doug. Yep. So, I mean, the game, I really like kind of the placement and the management. That it has a bag that you're managing tokens, because you're using these tokens as where you can place your workers. So the token, or the cubes, not tokens, the cubes represent different members of your crew on your ship, on your spaceship. So you're trying to, you have mechanics or engineers or whatever that you're using, and those crew members will allow you to take the different actions on the board and to claim resources and use those resources to complete missions, and just a variety of ways to score points. I really liked the game. Still kind of feel like it's lacking something. I'm not quite sure what I would enhance in it, but still overall very good game. And we had fun playing it.
Yeah, I really liked the ships, where you go to the shipyard and gain your own ship that is going to be unique, because everybody starts with one, right? But it's all the same. And then the fact that you can upgrade your ships to enhance because you can take actions on your ship itself, not just on the board. There are action locations on your ships, but you can upgrade your ship and to flip it and to make those actions either better or different from what they are. And typically the different ones are still more powerful than the base ones that were on that first side.
They are, but they're both useful.
Very much so.
Yeah. And so that's why, I wanted to collect multiple sections of ships so that I could have some weaker and some upgraded versions for that very reason, because it's awesome.
Yeah.
The way that works. I like that mechanically a lot.
I did too. That was probably one of my favorite things about it. One of the things that I thought was lacking, and this is just maybe a nitpick, it's just an aesthetic thing. I think the production of it wasn't great. I don't know, just the production quality could have been better.
This is a self-published game. I mean, you can find it on Amazon, which is a great place to go find it. But it's local to the designer that I met up at Icon. So he lives up there in the Idaho Falls area.
Yeah, and that's why it's a nitpick, I think.
Right.
Because I really did. I've played it twice, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself both times.
Yeah, and the components are still pretty good. But yeah, there is some flatness to the board.
Yeah,
a little bit. It's very functional. It's very utilitarian, and it could have just used maybe a little bit more by way of sort of design and maybe readability, because not all of it was super readable. This game has some issues if you're colorblind. If you have any kind of colorblind problems, this is not a game for you, because some of those colors definitely, they need some icons or something to go with them, because, man, if you struggled with that at all, that you would really struggle with this game. But I liked it a lot. The thing that I wish it would have done is I wish there had been some sort of mechanism by which you could have introduced cubes into your active pool after drawing them from the bag.
Yeah, because anytime you get a cube, it goes into your bag that can be drawn out later.
Right. So you can acquire cubes during your turn, but they go back into the bag, just like you said, and you can't get any of those into your active pool. What that means for me, anyway, was that I had several turns where, even though I was trying to, you can cull some of those cubes, you can be strategic in trying to make sure that you ensure you get better draws. But the bottom line is, if you don't get good draws, you have a real dud round. I mean, there just isn't a lot you can do with those basic white cubes.
Well, and the game is geared toward you keeping those, right? Because you're going to get points at the end of the game for entire sets of cubes, which means you need to have the white cubes. You can't cull all of them, or at least by the end, get them back.
But there are 7 different colors, so that's a lot of cubes you need to collect.
It really is. So, I mean, maybe that's an issue with the game. I don't know. I mean, because there are benefits to culling those white cubes, because they are pretty much worthless. They're just basically just fill a generic spot, but they are worth points at the end. So I don't know.
Yeah. I also thought it's interesting. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I thought it was interesting because you basically hide John Carter in one of the bottom 2 stacks of tiles. and they could be in like the bottom, I think it's 2 or 3 of each one of those stacks in
3 or
one
4.
or the other, 3 or 4. So, I mean, the length of this game could just swing wild, right? Like if you got it, if it was in that like second to last stack and it was at the top, which it was actually the game that we played, it was, and it was, I felt like a pretty short game.
Yeah, it was much shorter than the other games I'd played.
Yeah, but if it was buried at the bottom of that last stack that none of us were buying from, that game would have gone for another hour and a half.
The last game I want to talk about before we get into news is Aeon Trespass Odyssey. This is a Kickstarter I received quite a while ago, and I've read the rules, and then we haven't done anything with it, and I've done some playthroughs, and then we haven't played it, and I have since forgotten the rules, where our friend Justin has played it quite a bit, so he was kind enough to teach it to us, and oh my gosh, what a great game. We did the tutorial where you're fighting the Hecaton, and the battles are unique. I noticed, and I know that Doug, you had a phenomenal battle that first round.
Oh my gosh, that first battle was just terrific. I loved it.
And for the rest of us, it kind of sucked. And then it flipped. For the next battle, it really sucked for you, but it was phenomenal for the rest of us. So it was kind of interesting how that happened.
Well, but the first round that we played, we were all on exactly equal. We had the same gear. We had all the basic stuff, right? So it was a luck thing.
It really was.
So because you do roll dice, and I got some really hot rolls, and it felt awesome. And it was really good.
And the card draws that were phenomenal for you too. Whenever you got wounded, it was a positive. It was a boon for you.
For sure. Those wound cards came up like it was incredible how lucky I got with some of those. Where Dave got disemboweled and died, which was hilarious.
You don't get over being disemboweled?
I got like perks, right?
Yeah.
And so, you're right. It was phenomenal. The second game that we played, I just got the wind kind of taken out of my sails. The cards that I acquired during the story part of it didn't do what I thought they did. And then like Dave, bless him, he kept doing this thing where he was like, oh, the rich get richer over here. The rich get richer over here. Rich is getting richer. And he was doing that like the whole time. And it was funny. But he kind of planted this like thing in everyone's head that I like had like these great cards or something. I don't know. So when we went to like distribute the gear, it was like the Justin and Andy side got the good stuff, and the Dave and Doug side got the less than good stuff. I actually thought that it was pretty good, but it wasn't until that second round started that I looked at it and I was like, oh no, this stuff is not as good as I thought it was. So it was a gear issue on the second round, but my goodness, this game is awesome. It really is. It's great. The story is awesome. The art is phenomenal. Some of the best I've seen in a board game, and that's saying a lot because I like art and I've played some really good games. I mean, I think of like Etherfields and some of these other games that I play and really enjoy. This one is right up there. Yeah, the sculpts on the miniatures are they're out of this world. They're so good. And the exploration part of it. So when you get into the more of the story side of it outside of battle, I actually kind of liked it where you're flipping cards and there's the exploration part of it, right? So it tells you which direction you can go on the map and you're building the map as you go and having different encounters and everything else as you're going. And one thing I really liked about it was the fact that you're presented with a decision on a map card, just so you flip it over and there's some encounter and you're presented with a decision that you have to make. And that decision will directly affect something later in the game, something in the story, something it might give you some sort of benefit now, but hurt you later, or you choose something that might hurt you now and possibly get a boon later. But I really like the fact that those decisions are meaningful decisions. It's not just here's some flavor, right? It's game impacting decisions that seem like they could have just been made trivial, but they took that opportunity to add a little bit of depth and a little bit of meat to it, and I really liked that. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It actually reminds me a lot of Stars of Icarios, right? These use very similar systems. Where Stars of Icarios, I think, uses keywords. This just uses like a grid, like A through whatever, and like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. But you just cross off the grid based on the decisions that you make, and then later in the story, it will reference like, hey, is this crossed off? If so, do this or read this or this happens. And so every decision you make has consequences down the line, and it's awesome. That's really cool. Games that manage to pull that off and pull it off well are always going to be at the top of my list of games I want to play. That was one I was really excited to play too, but by the time I was able to come over, I was sure your table was full, and I didn't want to be delegated to the kid table. Let's just say it was when I threw that out there in the chat that it was the only time that Dave was the first one there. Well, he had come over and helped you like kind of sleeve and get this game ready and had helped you kind of unbox this. I think he was excited about it. And I think he still is. I think he had a good time. He died both times we played.
Yes, he did. In fact, he died faster the second battle than he did the first battle.
He did. He got disemboweled the first battle, and then he got he did go out in kind of a blaze of glory. He got a heroic death on the second one. And it was heroic. It actually was thematic and pretty cool. He did a bunch of damage to the enemy and then died.
And so when he dies, the way it works is we are Argonauts that have been awakened, and we have the ability to control the Titans. So the Titans are actually what are going out and battling these huge primordial entities that have plagued the land. And so, yes, Dave died. Well, his Titan died, but we have I think right now we have 8 or 9 Titans in the Argos right now. So we have like Titan storage, right? We have so many Titans that we have access to, and you're going to be gaining more Titans and more powerful Titans as the story progresses and the game progresses. So,
and I love that. Like
I do too.
Like they're like a resource you have to manage, and you kind of pilot them, so to speak, like air quotes, pilot them. And yeah, if they die, they die. But your character persists. So it's a really cool mechanic.
That sounds really cool.
Let's dive into some news.
All right. We promised new games, new news. Let's get to it.
Okay. Well, I'll start us off. So for those of you who have not had a chance to play any of the Undaunted games, you really need to check them out. But there's a brand new one that just came out. This is a new release. This is Undaunted Battle of Britain. So this is by Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson, produced by Osprey Games. This just came out. I barely got my copy. It looks incredible. So it uses the familiar deck building system for 2 players that the other Undaunted games have. But in this case, it's all aerial combat. So you'll either be the British RAF or the German, I can't pronounce it, but you're going to be the British or the Germans. And all aerial combat. It looks like so good. And I can't wait to get to this one. I'm actually hoping, this is another one that I'm really hoping I can kind of rope more people in to play with me, because I love the Undaunted games. And I think you're going to love them the same way you liked Memoir 44.
Yeah, that's why I keep saying, choose me. Because I think we do a night or do a game day where we're playing Memoir 44, Undaunted, because these are both great 2-player games that I would really like to explore.
Yeah. So if the aerial combat thing seems a little more like, your style of thing, then go check out this Battle of Britain. It just released and it looks great.
A new one that's just out recently is Marvel Dagger, Dagger. And I can't remember what the acronym means, but Defense of Global something. Anyway, it's a Marvel game. I know, Doug, you talked about recently about having your Marvel fatigue.
For sure.
This is probably going to fit into that. I'm excited about this one. So it's 1 to 5 player game, but the sessions last like 3 hours. So I'm a little hesitant about that. You're picking up the team and you're fighting against the nefarious forces threatening the world. And you and your small group of heroes come to the rescue. So you're going to fight the minions. You're going to fight the bad guys. You have to work together. So it's a fully cooperative game. Each player is going to pick a hero, and then they're going to choose aspects for that hero. So there's a lot of customizability, Andy, something that I think you'll like. You find the nemesis, you shuffle the mission cards, shuffle the encounter cards, and then you begin to play. And then on each turn, so you're going to move, you're going to investigate, you're going to attempt to complete missions, you're going to be fighting bad guys and minions, or you can use some of your special abilities. The game ends when the nemesis is defeated or when the threat tracker reaches the end. If the nemesis is defeated, the players win. Yay, there was much rejoicing. If the threat track reaches the end, it's boo. The hero's lost. Rack it up and play it again 3 hours later. So this game has a lot going on. They're all cardboard pieces, but the cardboard pieces allow you to have a wide variety of heroes. In fact, I think there's like 25, maybe 30 heroes that you can choose from. So it has a lot of potential and it has some depth. So it's not just another standard quick Marvel game. So I'm hoping, got my fingers crossed, that this is going to be something that's going to have some meat on the bone and be able to both be a Marvel game, but not be one that you're going to have fatigue with, Doug.
Well, fingers crossed.
The game I want to talk about next is just closed in Kickstarter, but it's one that I want to talk about because it's probably worth jumping into the late pledge once the pledge manager opens up. And that is Ultimate Tanari's Adventures. This game is a reprint with adding additional content along with it. But they have improved the writing. They have added, like I said, a bunch more content, and it's a dungeon crawl. You guys know I'm a sucker for dungeon crawl games.
Yes, you are.
And this one looks amazing. It does come with if you want the all-in with everything painted, it comes with a fairly hefty price tag of like over $800.
Holy cow, that's a lot of nuts.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh.
But there are options that are less than that. If you, for example, if you don't want things painted or whatever, right? You don't have to do the all-in painted pledge. But that price tag about floored me when I saw it. I'm like, oh my gosh, for one game, that's crazy. But there's a ton of content.
And those miniatures, I'm just looking at some of the miniatures now.
They look amazing.
That is this, you have this pagoda that has this dragon going around it. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's the silver dragon, and that thing is cool. But all of the miniatures are just phenomenal. The dragons in particular.
Really are. Yep, they really are.
Oh my gosh, they're so good.
This one looks great.
And if you look at the painting that supposedly will come in painted if you purchase it, if they come in looking anything like what it's showing on the Kickstarter page, they are going to come in looking, it's probably worth the cost to have them come in looking that good, because it really, I mean, it's phenomenal. The game looks great. I love games that have the storyline, especially if they've done and made improvements. The fact that it's a reprint and they've done improvements on it. You know, I look back at like Etherfields and the terrible rule book and everything, all of our complaints about that game, even though it's a fun and great game, coming into it like a 2.0 or version of it where they've done a lot of fixes and they've done the erratas to it and everything, which all that's going to be included in this version of it. I feel like this is the time to jump into it, right?
It's so tempting, right? I volunteered Dave's kidney.
Holy cow. Yeah. I'm just looking at these painted sculpts.
They're incredible.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see why it's $800. I'm not going to be spending $800 on it, but I sure hope you are, Andy.
This is the first game that has really tempted me to come to all of you and be like, hey, look, we might need to pool our resources and buy just a Meeple Nation copy of this.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because that's what it would take. That is a hefty price tag, but holy cats, this game looks amazing.
Oh, yes, it does. Yeah, $800. That's chump change, right?
If only.
I wish. I wish. Well, moving on from that, it's a tough act to follow.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
Moving on from that, I wanted to make mention, and I'll just kind of rattle both of these off here. These are two that have been kind of on my radar. New releases. We've got Stranger Things Upside Down. This one's generating some buzz right now because it's by Rob Daviau, who is a leader in the industry, and put out by Simon Games. So I've heard that this is a pretty great game, and if you enjoy the Stranger Things theme, you'll really, really enjoy this game. Haven't played it, but it's kind of on my radar. This is a new release, Stranger Things. So if that's your jam, maybe go check that one out. The other one I wanted to mention just really fast was The Shivers. This one kind of caught my eye because this is a pop-up book that plays my understanding is it kind of plays like a Mysterium type mystery. So you have one player act as the storyteller, and then the rest of the players are trying to uncover some kind of mystery as you go through this pop-up storybook. And it kind of caught my eye because I haven't seen something like that in board gaming before.
There's Wonder Book out there that's a similar.
I haven't heard of that. So maybe there are, but also I like pop-up books, and I think kind of the horror theme on this seems kind of neat, the way it's been done, the art style and stuff on it. This looks like a pretty cool one. Also, at some point in the future, they haven't released a date yet, but they have like a Kickstarter that's going to run for like 3 expansions to this game. So I think it's done well. I think that this is gaining some traction and might be one that we need to try to check out at some point.
And so these are both out already?
They are new releases. Yep. Stranger Things and The Shivers are new releases. They are out. And then the expansions to The Shivers will be kickstarting sometime soon.
I think, didn't The Shivers kickstart?
It did.
It was. I remember seeing something on it a while back.
But there is a retail version, right? It wasn't exclusive, so you can get it at retail now.
So Robo Rally. We've talked about Robo Rally in the past. It's kind of a harder game to find nowadays since it's out of print. But it has a new reprint out. Renegade Games, so we'll see if it plays just like Power Rangers. But this is...
It probably doesn't, but if you've played their Power Rangers game, I bet you'll be really familiar with it.
I hope so, yeah. But again, it's 2 to 6 player game. So this gives people an opportunity to get this to the table who maybe haven't had the experience, or getting it back to the table for people who missed the game when it was originally released. You have 2 to 6 players that are playing 45 to 90 minutes. You're competing to race around the track, try to reach the number of flags, and you have to reach these flags in order. So if you pass a flag earlier and it's not in order, you're going to have to come back and pass that flag again. It's a programming, so you're programming your robot. Brings some kind of nostalgia as like tiny turbo cars where you're trying to program that. But you have the opportunity, if you get damaged, that some of your robot starts to glitch. So you have that program that gets stuck. So instead of being able to do I think it's 5 normal movements, you have 4 plus the 1 movement that just every time you're going to be doing that. And it's going to throw off your whole groove as you go through your robot and you go through your plans. There's new content that's going to be coming out that's going to introduce more maps and more challenges that are going to be on those boards. But the game does come with 6 pre-painted miniatures out of the box. And the original ones, they were pewter, and these are nice 3D printed plastic resin pieces, but they're painted, which is really nice. So if you're looking for a chance to get Robo Rally to the table, now you can.
All right, I want to talk about I've got Kickstarters that I'm talking about because I'm excited for several Kickstarters. So another one I want to talk about is the Shadows of Brimstone. There are 2 actually. There's the Shadows of Brimstone, the Lost Tombs of Kamuntet, and the Shadows of Brimstone, the Impossible Hell Train.
I just keep hearing Highway to Hell.
Do you?
I just keep hearing Andy spending more money on Shadows of Brimstone.
You're not
wrong.
Can't play this. You can't buy that other game if you're buying all these.
What are you talking about? So
maybe we should change it to Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train, because that's what Andy's on. He's on the Crazy Train.
Well, with the Lost Tombs of Kamuntet, it's set in the 1930s Egypt, and you're gonna be exploring tombs. So they've already done the Western. They've got the Far East theme. Their previous Kickstarter was the Norse theme, Valhalla, and now they're doing an Egyptian theme. So I'm really excited about this. With the Impossible Train, you're basically fending off hordes of train robbers and demons that are attacking the train. And anyway, both of them look fun. Both of them are completely compatible with any of your other Shadows of Brimstone games. And of course, they're coming out with new monsters. And like I've said about this game in the past, the sheer content, the amount of stuff you can get for this is unreal. And I have a lot of it, and I still don't have all of it, which is crazy.
Yeah, you do have a ton of it. I mean, I think it's a literal ton. I think you have 2,000 pounds of...
Wouldn't surprise me.
Shadows of Brimstone.
That's a lot of boxes. There's something new that shows up at Andy's house every time I'm over there. I see a new Shadows box somewhere. So
seems that way.
That's awesome. We need to play the game more. For as invested as you are in it, we need to get it to the table more for sure, because it's good. It's really good. I like Shadows a lot.
That is true. Not only that, we have enough stuff. If we really wanted to, we could get it going on 2 different tables.
Yeah, absolutely. We could. 100%. Well, sticking to crowdfunding, I wanted to make mention of a few. So I tried to find just kind of a handful of Kickstarter games that people wouldn't miss out on. So these are ones that are coming in the future. They're not currently running. So there's plenty of time to go and click the follow link on them and to get notified when they launch and to jump in on these. You've heard us talk a lot about Stars of Icarios. Stars of Icarios is getting a 1.5 edition. Don't know when that's going to hit. Not a lot of details have been released. They are going to have a little bit of new content that comes with this, but not a lot is my understanding. Mostly it's quality of life improvements. I watched kind of a video where they were talking about some of them, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much these quality of life improvements are really needed. I feel like the game's already pretty slick. There are a few things that might make it just a little bit easier, but mostly you can get in on a second printing of the game. So if you missed it the first time around and you're interested in jumping into Stars of Icarios, keep your eye out for that. The other one I wanted to mention was Dragon Eclipse. This is a big Awaken Realms game. They're going to be kickstarting this one sometime soon. This is kind of like a 2-player Pokemon on steroids style game, and more details to come on that. And then lastly, I'll just throw out really quick the Isofarian Guard second printing. This is a game that I had my eye on for quite a while. This had kind of some issues with production and getting it done and out the door and cost and everything like that. And the fact that they've got all that stuff ironed out and are kicking this out for a second printing really makes me excited, because this game looks absolutely amazing.
I just want to talk about 2 more Kickstarters, and then I'll be done. One is for those of you that are dungeon masters for role-playing games or anything like that, and really like to have, or would really like to have, like more of a 3D terrain to go with your campaign. Usually to get into anything like that is ridiculously expensive, like the Dungeon Forge or anything like that, where your 3D printed tiles and everything else is outrageous typically. Well, these guys have come up with a cool idea. Now, they're STL files, so would need to print them yourselves, but they're just columns. And the columns they'll give you PDFs that you can print out of like cardstock, or you can just pay to have them sent and just that they'll print them for you. But you fold them up and then they slide into the grooves on these columns. So you can customize what your dungeon is, and it looks great. And you're not paying the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do this. So I think the max pledge is like $120 and you get everything. But they come with mats. So dungeon mats that have the 1-inch squares, and then you can just build your walls and build everything up however you want. And you have all the components and everything you need. There's doors, there's everything you need in order to do it. And it looks great, and it's a lot more economical and easier to get into.
So you said that was coming to Kickstarter?
That is on Kickstarter now.
What's the project name?
It is called, thank you. I guess I need to tell everybody that, but it's called Dungeon-X. And it should have about, 15 or so days, maybe 14 days, 2 weeks left on Kickstarter. But it's one that kind of caught my eye of something that'd be really cool to do. And I've attempted to do different things for D&D, and this one actually looks like it may have nailed it on this one. The last one, which is...
That does look good.
Doesn't it look good?
Oh, wow, yeah. No, you started saying that, and I was like, that might look a little cheesy. No, that looks amazing. That looks really cool. And you're right, the way the columns, you can just kind of customize the layout, and then you just slip the little pieces in between them. That looks amazing. That might be something I need to check out.
Super, super easy to get into as far as that goes. The last one I want to talk about, and this is going to be real quick, is a game called Midhala. It is a Norse-themed dungeon crawl game, but there's no randomness, which I think is kind of cool. I'm intrigued. I don't know if they haven't released a ton of details about it. All I know is it is going to be launching on Kickstarter, and I'm kind of excited to see exactly what that's all about. And I may have to pick that up because I have problems buying dungeon crawl games.
Yeah, you do, which causes us to all have problems playing the ones we have and the new ones.
Yep.
So speaking of Kickstarters, there's going to be a new Game Topper Kickstarter coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, yes. I'm really excited about that. 5
new mats. There's a kid table.
Yeah.
So it's on wheels, so it's set up so that like you can play on a low like sofa. You're sitting on your sofa, so it's a lower seat, so you can play on there. It makes like a great like a cocktail table or a coffee table that you can just bring out and put a game on it there while you're sitting in your front room. Has wheels on it. And then Andy, of course,
excited.
There's your Mycroft dining covers.
Yay! Finally, the dining covers are done, and they've passed the Berkey test.
Yeah, there's a picture of Berkey laying across the fully assembled dining covers. So if they can withstand the weight of a human, then they'll withstand the weight of any game that you can put on there. So, but yeah, that's as far as Kickstarters. That's all I have on my radar. There's some new games that are coming out, though, that I'm pretty excited about. I think we mentioned this last news, but just wanted to hit on it again. And that is Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West. This is a 2 to 5 player game. Sessions should last from 20 to 90 minutes. But this is, again, you have Rob Davio, Matt Laycock, who've put together a bunch of, Matt's done a really good job with his legacy games, and Rob does a very good job with his games in general, and it's all based on the Alan Moon Ticket to Ride. So you're going to be playing over 12 scenarios, so it's going to be a shorter legacy. You're going to have continual progress and continual discovery, which is pretty good.
Yeah, color me intrigued on this one. I mean, I like Ticket to Ride. It's a far cry from being my favorite game, but a legacy version of it could really be amazing.
Well, I mean, you look at Pandemic, right? Pandemic
Yeah,
fits
for sure.
that exact same mold, but Pandemic
100%.
Legacy, amazing. So another one, the third in the trilogy of the Great Western games coming out, Great Western Trail New Zealand. So this one, you're the owner of a sheep station. So instead of cattle, you're dealing in sheep this time. So you're on the South Island of New Zealand at the end of the 19th century. Recent years have seen your family farm prosper and diversifying your breeds of sheep and increasing the value of your wool. So this time it's all about sheep, and I'm intrigued with this one. I haven't played my Great Western Trail Argentina yet, but I really enjoy Great Western Trail. The first edition and the second edition is just as good. So I'm interested and somewhat excited for this the sheep herding game. Another one is Bonsai, which is a 1 to 4 player game. Plays in about 40 minutes. In Bonsai, players take on the role of expert bonsai masters intent on growing their own bonsai, which are potted plants. Whomever grows the best plant will be appointed to show their bonsai in the Imperial Garden. So kind of a similar theme as like Tokonoko, where you're trying to be the gardener to be into the Emperor's garden. On your turn, you're going to choose to perform one of 2 actions. You're going to either meditate or cultivate. If you meditate, you're going to choose one of the face-up cards on the board and take it along with any bonsai tiles that are represented on that card. If you cultivate, you're going to be placing your bonsai tiles, which are in your personal supply. So during the turn in which your bonsai matches or exceeds the requirements of one of the goals that are on the board, you can choose to claim that goal, or if you want to press your luck and hold off for a more challenging goal, then you can hold off and go for that. So I like that element. You can get the easy points, or you can hold off and try to get the better points. However, you stand that chance of somebody ending the game before you complete, because it could be a race for the galaxy.
I usually go for the long haul, but it ends up biting me in the butt on games like that.
I usually do too, unless I'm playing with Dave and then I'm doing anything to end the game.
Then everything becomes a race for the galaxy.
Everything becomes a race for the galaxy.
Honestly, Nathan, you could go for the long haul and it would still last be too short for David to get everything done he wanted to.
You're absolutely right.
I usually go for the quick points and then realize too late that I should have gone for the end game points. But that's a different story altogether.
But yeah, those are some new games that are on the horizon. So keep your eye out for those. See if any of those excite you. There's a lot of news in this here news episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, tell us what we missed, or tell us what you're excited about by dropping us a line at meeplenation@gmail.com. I think that's going to wrap this episode up. So until next time,
we'll see you at the game table, looking at those new games, looking at that shelf of shame.
There's so many new games.
So many new games. Get them all to the table.
Looking at those new dining covers.
Oof. So you can put that new $800 game on it.
Yes.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of Werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation. Or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.